Welcome to Phillips Mill Art Talk. I'm your host, Laura Womack, and with me is Jen McHugh, our producer.
Hello.
Today, we're happy to welcome Kelly Sullivan, a local artist who lives art. Kelly started painting with her when her grandmother gave her art supplies and told her not to be sparing with the paint. Kelly has been painting ever since, even during a period when she flirted with being a rock singer in San Francisco. But Kelly feels her true talent lies in painting. We believe that. As a result, she's been sharing both her work and her passionate belief that creativity feeds our souls. Kelly has exhibited many times at the Phillips Mill Art Exhibition, winning awards as well. And in addition to painting, Kelly has many entrepreneurial undertakings going on. She started FingerSmears many years ago to promote creative, collaborative experiences beyond just the community of artists. And she's about to start renovation work on Lambertville's old Strand Theatre, turning it into a home for FingerSmears and experimental theater. Welcome to Art Talk, Kelly.
Aw, thank you, Laura. Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to be here. And hi to everybody else who's out there. Thank you for being here. I should clarify though, I never really flirted with being a rock star singer. It was like that was something I always wanted to do, but I can't actually sing. I don't have a good voice. So it's like, that was a total I didn't share that fantasy with the rest of the world.
Okay. I appreciate you clearing that up. We like to get it right. Welcome also to our attendees. We'd like you to join the conversation with us by typing your questions and your comments into chat, and we'll take your questions as we go along. So join in. All right, Kelly, you're in your lovely studio upstairs in the People's Store in Lambertville. And you said you would be happy to give us a tour. So we're really excited to take a look around. I think let's just get right into it because we want to see your art. That's all right.
Let's see. Okay, let me reverse the camera here.
So while you're getting oriented, I'm just going to let people know that what we've worked out is Kelly is going to take us around her studio for a bit. We're going to stop in and look at a couple of pictures, and then some of them we'll go back and visit in more detail. Wow, that's fabulous, Kelly. Who is that?
That is Eve. That's actually Eleanor Voorhees. She's the painter who has the studio next door to mine on the 3rd floor, and that is her daughter Eve. And this piece was done for a fashion show in New York, so I was able to just kind of do whatever I wanted with her, and made a super fun shoot. And there she is. But yeah, she's a beauty. She's a beauty in real life too.
Yeah.
This is from the this new series I'm working on, which is all of Lambertville, the city of Lambertville, gyms of Lambertville, where all those great impressionist paintings are. I go in there and just kind of, oogle at them.
Upper left, I think we're going to look at later. I think we're going to look at Aiden, which is that was in Phillips Mill, and I believe it won an award in Phillips Mill, and it won another award as well.
Yes, it did win an award for painting, I believe, at the Phillips Mill, and then the ribbon that's on it is honorable mention for portraiture from the Oil Painters of America National Exhibition, which was wildly exciting too.
Great.
And then these are some out west too. I do travel a lot to paint. Portraits up there. Stone. These are FingerSmears in this corner. That one with all the Rolling Stones during their Voodoo Lounge tour in 1994. So they all painted on it and signed it, which was pretty fun. And then that's another one in the corner. And there's a digital version on the screen. Somebody just made a mark. Did you see that mark fly in? That was kind of fun.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. This I don't think we have an image of this later. So let's really quickly stop. I really like this one, Kelly.
This is also one of my favorite paintings of my career. We took the girls project that I'm working to take around the world is called Mighty Fingers Facing Change. And we've produced it in 29 locations around the world so far. And this was from Uganda. This was the main road in and out of the village. And that was the commute to the market. And it was just incredibly peaceful and beautiful, and no man-made trash anywhere, very rural, very rustic, but just crazy beautiful. So
It looks a little like some places I travel to too. I think that we see similar scenes around the world, and so I think many of us have fond associations with that picture.
The simple things in life, right?
Yep.
Yeah. This is these are I have a lot of art books which I love. This one was also in the Phillips Mill. That one.
I remember it being in there. Yeah. And I think we have this one to look at a little bit later.
Okay. And then these are all part of this new series of Lambertville scenes that I'm working on, the Storybook Village series. And this is a very peaceful, calming painting of the Lewis Island down here. We've got New Hope across the way there, and it's just kind of I like this painting. It's a lot of just movement and fun juice, and it was fun to paint.
Now, would you consider that part of the storybook series or no?
No, it's from a different period, but it's still very much Lambertville. This is my messy little corner of the world, my studio back here, where I spend pretty much all my time when I'm in here.
Stop for a minute there. We'd like to see your workspace.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we love to see the workspace. You've got your handy paper towels.
Oh, yeah, I just did that. I should have done it like 20 years ago. I don't know what I was thinking, but it's so much nicer now. It's hanging on an electrical cord. Maybe a bungee would be better, but it's pretty nice.
And then to the right, sorry, you go ahead.
This?
Looking up to the right, I think that's your inspiration board.
Oh, this board, yeah, there's just kind of fun things on there that I like to look at. Make me happy.
And then we were going to show, yeah, go ahead.
That's the Dave Matthews Band. That's a very old acrylic painting, long before I really started studying and really trying to, just to understand color and composition a little bit better.
It's from your San Francisco rock and roll days.
Yeah, that's it. That's the self-portrait.
That is
when I turned 50.
That is a beautiful portrait, Kelly.
Oh, thanks.
Really nice.
That's very my stab at maturity. Here's my lovely view out the window of my 3rd floor studio, looking out at the church, and we get some really great sunsets from up here.
Now, will you
keep my whoops, lovely studio.
Very good, Kelly. Are you going to stay in the studio as you develop the Lambertville Strand?
The Strand? Oh, probably. The Strand's going to take, I don't know, 9 months at least to renovate it. There's no plumbing in it yet, it's from the ground up. So it'll take a long time. And I love this studio. I've been here for a long time, and we'll just see how that all, sort of flushes out. But I'm not giving up this space anytime soon. That's for sure. Until I really am, until that's really ready for me, and then we'll see what happens.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at some of the pictures. Let's look in more detail at some of the pictures that we just saw. Maybe we'll start in order. I think we've got an image of Aiden, Jen. And I'd just like to, since it won so many awards, I think it's a favorite of yours, Kelly, if I'm not wrong.
Well, the painting was really special. Aiden had severe scoliosis and had her entire spine fused from basically the top to the bottom. She's got 1 or 2 vertebrae at each end that still function, but the rest of it is one piece. And we tried every alternative method you could possibly imagine before before we went that route, but it was really the only answer. She was in pain every day. And so she had that surgery at 14. And this was the first day that we got her out of the house and walked down by the river. And she amazed me, her strength and her grace.
Yeah,
Amazing.
you can
So,
see that in the picture.
oh, thanks.
Nice.
Maybe that the judges saw too, but it was not an easy painting to paint. The first time I painted it, or when I first sort of laid her in, her face just came out beautifully. And then I went in to sort of solidify what I had laid down, and I completely messed it up. And it was funny, my mother said to me, I was on my way to the studio and she called and I said I was going to work on a painting. She said, don't touch your face, don't touch your face. I'm like, I have to touch her face. It's like just washed in. But I really messed it up. And it took a couple years I would turn it around and put it against the wall because I was just so distraught over it. And then 2 years later, she was taking off all restrictions and I gave it another stab and she worked out. So I do. I love having her in the studio here. She's 24 years old now. She skis down mountains and rides horses, and she's an amazing, brilliant, well-heeled child. So she's not really a child anymore, I guess, but I like to have her on the wall there.
Right, I can understand. It's really nice shadow, and it's interesting that you had so much struggle with the painting. I think it's fascinating to me that you turned it to the wall and just let it get out of your mind, because I think a lot of times the creative process is about putting something down and coming back to it later.
Yeah, I would agree. Sometimes you need to just, move on. And then if you want to come back to it, do it. Sometimes you just put it in the scrap pile or you paint something over it, and that's okay too.
Right, absolutely. Okay, let's take a look at, what do we have up next here? We've got the girl in southern China, I believe.
Yeah.
So while Jen pulls that up, what were you doing in China, Kelly?
Well, I had Kevin McPherson, who I mentioned earlier, is a wonderful living painter, and I've studied with him a couple of times, and he was doing a project over there. He wasn't doing the project. He actually wasn't there for that. But he asked if I wanted to go join it. They were doing this, doing a project where they had 5 very remote areas around China, and they sent artists there, and our job was to sort of help the kids use art to illustrate their history and where the village came from. And so I went to this very southern part of China, and I was at this school for about 3 weeks. And this particular painting was her grandfather was the oldest man in the village. So all the kids were listening to him tell stories about the village and, when it was settled and which trees were the oldest. That was really kind of interesting, and which gardens were the oldest. It's called Innocence Lost because she actually had bruises on her neck, which I found really sort of it was disturbing. And we had some conversations about that with the people that were running the program, and hopefully she got the help she needed.
She has an interesting expression on her face. I mean, it's it's a soft smile, but it's not without concern.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly the way she presented herself too. She was a smart, strong girl, but like you said, not without concern.
Right.
So, yeah.
Jen, do we have Lewis Island? Passing Storm. We slowed down on that a little bit before. And when we looked at it earlier, Kelly, you mentioned that it had a lot of juice and movement in it. And I really enjoyed that description. And I was hoping that you would elaborate on it.
Yeah. I think you know, if I look at like some of the Pennsylvania Impressionists from this area, uh, their their paintings have a lot of juice. There are a lot of, you know, it's half the scene and half the artist. You could there's a lot of play and there's a lot of motion, and it's a fun way to paint. I think when you paint like that and you feel it go into your painting, that's, I don't know, it's that's the best way I can describe it, I think. But
Right.
also really love this spot in town. I love Lewis Island, and since COVID they put a gate up because I think maybe too many high school kids were hanging out down there right at the start of COVID, and they were trying to you know, keep everybody safe. So it's not as easy to just walk out onto anymore, but hopefully that'll change after COVID goes away. But it's a beautiful place to just go out and look at the river and watch the cars go over the bridge, and you know, watch the geese, and it's just a beautiful, peaceful spot.
It is a beautiful, peaceful spot. Let's look a little bit more in detail at this, Kelly, if you don't mind. When you talk about motion, help us see that in your painting. I mean, I could take some guesses at it, but I think we'd rather hear it from you. You know, the way the tree, yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed part of that. It cut out a little bit. You want me to point out what?
So I like the description of the motion here because it's such a serene and peaceful image as you were talking about it, but there is also motion. And I was hoping you would talk about the motion in the picture and how you accomplish that and yet still communicate a sense of calm and serenity.
I think you kind of move with this might sound, I was going to say, you know, dance while you're painting it, but you do move, you know, you kind of move uh, as you're making these strokes, and you keep making them until it has a poetry that feels good on the inside. I find some like similar when I'm painting portraits. If I'm trying to paint a face and it has a certain expression, I kind of start making that face on my own face to just to get to it. And I think when you're painting movement like this, I find myself swaying when I paint. Yes.
So it's a very physical, very empathetic process for you.
Yeah, I would say so. Yes.
So you travel a lot, Kelly, and your work shows that, obviously. I mean, we've looked at China, we've looked at Uganda, we've looked at Lambertville. We're talking different continents. And we didn't talk about this before, but you know, that sense of place is so important when you're doing these landscapes. And yet there's this idea also of tourist art. And you know, we have that here in Lambertville as well. I mean, we're so known, or Lambertville, Bucks County, we're so known for our landscapes, and people come here from outside and are interested in coming away with a painting that helps them remember their experiences here. And I just wonder if you have any thoughts about that whole concept of tourist art. And some people say that dismissively, and yet I have paintings of places where I've been.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. So what do you think?
yeah, no. I think I think it's a wonderful time to buy art. I mean, I I have art in my house from all over the place, and most of it reminds me of some specific time or place, and you know, I think that's a wonderful time to buy art. If you're somewhere and you're engaged and you love where you are and you want to remember that, you want to, you know, if you want to look at a piece of art and kind of feel that again, or yeah, there's no bad time to buy art, period.
I agree. To me, if it's a good painting and it makes you feel good, it's like music. It's an emotion that that art is helping you to. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think if you, yeah, well, hey, I have a studio in town that a lot of tourists come to. So if a tourist wants to come here and buy some art from Lambertville, that's awesome. But and it is probably what they come looking for more. But I have obviously there's work in here from all over the world, and I've sold most of it from this very spot. I mean, I have a lot of paintings from all over, so I wouldn't say that the tourists that come here are only looking for Lambertville scenes. It's they have I think they have a pretty broad base. We get a lot of people here from New York and from Philadelphia, and even just Bucks and Hunterdon County. There are some, beautiful big estates here, and people have an appreciation for one of a kind things. They don't want something mass produced on their wall, and they want it to be meaningful. We do commissions up here. I do. Eleanor does too. So there's yeah.
So Jim Feld agrees with us. He says, beautiful. Thank you so much. And Jen, I think he's got a question. And we want to hear from all of our attendees. Please join us with your questions in the chat. Jen, can you help us with Jim's question?
Sure. He said, what type of paint do you use and what kind of magenta? Which he says he sees is important.
What type of magenta? I almost never use magenta.
Well, maybe you're
I use I like Gamlin paints, and when I teach, Gamlin sends me sample products for my students, and I like that too. And there's always somebody you can get on the, like, if something's not working for you, some product they make isn't working for you, there's always someone available to help answer a question about that product. Like, there are product specialty people. So I like Gamlin, and I think they're good paints, and they're they're not absurdly priced. So I use them, but I also have, I find if I find a box of paints at a flea market, I buy it. Oil paint lasts a long time, and so I'm not that particular. I do use alizarin crimson and phthalo green to make my darks, and that can also make a really interesting purpley color when you add just a tick of white to it. I use I don't have magenta over there, but I have a fairly limited palette. Lemon yellow, a cad red light, ultramarine blue. I also like cobalt blue, and then that phthalo green with just like a tick of phthalo green into the blue gives it that aqua sort of color that's beautiful and glistens. Color is fun, and the possibilities are endless. I think that's one of my favorite parts about painting, is really playing with the colors and sometimes pushing them and putting them in places where they don't necessarily belong. But if the value of light is the right value, then the color will, it'll work if it's close enough.
I can see Jim picking up on your alizarin.
I hope I answered.
Yeah, I think Jim is maybe picking up on your alizarin red in your darks. I could see that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't use any black.
Right.
So they make beautiful darks. They're transparent and they're light, and they make beautiful darks.
All right. Before we get into some of your, the many projects that you have going on, Kelly, I'd just like you to talk a little bit about what your style is. We talked about the other day, and yeah, please talk about your style. Yeah.
I don't know. I asked you the same question. I'm like, I don't know, what's my style? I don't really know that I have one. I guess if I had to pick one, it would be Impressionist. because these are my impressions of whatever scene I'm standing in. And if I had to call it something, that's probably what it would be.
And I just thought that was kind of an interesting answer because, it seems like Impressionism has been so important. It's something that's always with us since it was, it was the innovative, radical new style. And of course, it's obviously very important to us here at the home of the New Hope School, which is so important in American Impressionism. So I just wondered if you had thoughts about that.
Yeah.
How we, Impressionism is always with us,
Oh,
even as we go through other styles. I know you study with an abstract realist and, people with very different styles.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is fun and important. I mean, I've taken abstract classes because I wanted, with Pat Martin, I took an abstract class and I loved it because I wanted to see how it would affect my, maybe more traditional work. And it did. It was awesome. I took a class with Tyho Danish because I wanted to see how his color, the way he used color would affect my work. And it did. So, I mean, there's so much to learn from so many great people, and we have a lot of them in the area too. So as far as Impressionism goes, I love the Pennsylvania Impressionists. I walk into gyms of Lambertville sometimes and I just stand in front of those paintings, or if I get stuck and I feel like I can't figure something out, I just go look at other beautiful art or their art. I think Impressionism, in particular, it allows you to play with color. I mean, that's kind of what it is. What is it other than it's the artist's, when you look at the painting, you see as much of the painter in that painting as you do the scene. And that's what makes it interesting. I mean, photorealism is awesome if you can do it, but I want to see a little bit of, I want to see a little bit of the soul of the painter in there. And I think that's what Impressionism gives you.
Oh, nice. Very nice. We have a question. Let's see. We had someone raise their hand and I think that was Lisa Dominic. So Lisa, if you can write your question into the chat, that would be helpful. And Jen, I think Robin Haydenberg has a question for Kelly.
Well, I think she wants to hear about the collaborative pieces and that process. I think the FingerSmears and all of that.
All right.
Okay.
Kelly, what is a finger smear?
A FingerSmear is a large collaborative painting that I orchestrate from beginning to end, but it's hundreds of people paint on one canvas. So I'll sketch it out. Everybody that's on location sticks their fingers in paint and they all add marks to it. I maintain the palette the whole time, which is what stops it from getting a little wild on occasion. But people will stick their finger in the paint and then they'll add a mark to it and then they sign their name, and I sort of pull them all together. But I started doing them in my 20s in San Francisco. I wanted to, they were cutting funding for arts education in public schools, which I think is obviously a terrible idea, but I wanted to make a statement about it. So I produced a hands-on arts festival at the Fort Mason Foundation in San Francisco, and kids were able to come in and paint and sculpt and make masks and drum drums, and it was a neat event. But I had 15 artists set up working studios so that the kids could come in and experience all this. I got Haagen-Dazs to sponsor it. They gave us a bunch of ice cream and almost no money. So we all had to figure out how to do it on this ridiculously low budget. So I ran the painting section. So for $200, I bought one big canvas and cheap acrylic paint, and that was my first FingerSmear. And then I started doing them with friends of mine that were in the event industry. Said, hey, come, I'm doing this thing in the park. Come do one of your paintings. I said, all right, that'll be fun. And then I had a meeting one day about one of these that I was doing for free. And the PR director from Macy's was sitting next to me, and she slid me her card and said, call me, honey, I can do something with you. So that was the first time I realized that somebody would actually pay me to show up and finger paint at an event. And I was rather blown away by it and pleasantly surprised. And the rest is history, I guess. Since then I've had I know over 100,000 people stick their fingers in paint to paint on FingerSmears with me, which has been fun. I've had a lot of, Bruce Springsteen, the Rolling Stones, Harrison Ford, Willem Dafoe, Carol Burnett, Van Cliburn. It's been fun.
So what's the experience like? What kind of feedback do you get from the Rolling Stones or Van Cliburn about this sort of thing? I understand you also do it for corporations. And what are your executives do they come in their suits and they, yeah.
Yeah, yep, quite often. I think most of what I do now is pretty much for all corporate teams. And we use this art to kind of amplify whatever message they're working on. And people love it. I think especially the corporate teams, and most of them haven't stuck their fingers in paint since they were in kindergarten. So as soon as their finger hits the paint, they let out this little like, it feels good, and then they rub it on the canvas, and it's a pleasant experience. And I think it brings back some deep, pleasant memory for most people. So and they walk away clean. So it stretches them a little bit, but it doesn't take them so far out of their comfort zone that it defeats the purpose. And then when it's all pulled together and they have this finished piece of work, and they can point to it and say, oh, there's my mark, and that's where I signed it. And then it winds up in one of the corporate offices or in some common place that's where they can see it on a regular basis. And sometimes people get prints of them, which is also really nice. So I think it's fun. I haven't had any complaints. So
And they walk away with no ink or no paint on their suits?
No, I've discovered handy wipes at some point in my career, but so everybody gets a handy wipe as soon as they're done. They just kind of clean their fingers. But back when I first started and I had all the Rolling Stones painted on that, I had a bucket of water with like a dirty towel hanging on the wall that they all used. It's one of those things I look back at and think, oh my God, what was I thinking? But I was still figuring it out. I was still working it out at that point. So
right.
Yeah.
And can we pull up some of the finished FingerSmears, and then we have a treat as well with the FingerSmears. But first, let's take a picture of some of that. And Kelly, can you talk to us about both what the subject is here and then the process?
Sure. This piece actually is a paint.team. This is a digital version of a FingerSmear, and this was done to honor all of the heroes really that have risked their lives, and many of them lost their lives to help us get through COVID. And then on the bottom, this is just sort of a close-up area on the bottom, so you could see a few more of those marks. And so there's all these awesome little symbols and hearts and flowers and love, and there's great messages inside of these. So this is a digital FingerSmear, and this was I had a collector and friend, and he wrote software, and I sort of proposed this idea of an app to him, and he thought, oh, that could be kind of fun. He had a long career in the health writing software for insurance companies and the banking industry. So to be able to create something that was about color without massive regulation was, I think, very appealing to him. So Doug Moreland wrote the software, and then we design the templates and upload them, and people can jump on and make marks, and it's kind of a fun way to work.
And I think we have something to share tonight, don't we, Kelly? Jen, let's learn about this one more. This is a painted one, is that right, Kelly?
Yeah, this is a painted one. This was done for the Jefferson College of Nursing with the teaching staff there, which was a very, very, very fun project. And then we went back and presented it and did a little presentation on activating imagination. And Jefferson College of Nursing trains an awful lot of nurses, and they wind up working all over the world. So while their focus is on Philadelphia, they wanted to, you know, make sure that it was clear that, you know, from Philadelphia, they go around the world.
Right. And so
Yeah.
you do the drawing, you spec it out, you said, and then the people who are there, they come and they just use their fingers, they stick them in the paint that you've already mixed. Yeah.
Yes, not even, it just comes out of the tube. So that's why they're all very, very colorful. The colors are mostly just straight out of the tube.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So
And you can see that people have been signing them, and that's great.
yeah, they all signed them. This one was done for the New Jersey Education Association. We've done a lot of work together over the last couple of years, and has always been, they're a blast to work with, and the teachers are a blast. And I feel like it's no, they're just a good group. So this was done at a leadership conference. This was one of the first projects I did with the New Jersey Education Association. And then we did a couple more pieces at the conference that had lots of participation too. So.
Okay, great. So and here we have one on racism. Who was this for?
This was actually for this. So this was done at the teachers conference for the New Jersey Education Association, but they had an amazing display that all the teachers could sort of weave through, and they could look at these social issues that really needed to be addressed, and it helped them understand how to talk about it, what resources were available for them, to help them have conversations and help them help kids who needed help around these issues. So there were 3 huge campuses. One was on racism, one was LGBTQ, and the other was immigration. So after they came out of this exhibit, they had these 3 paintings, and they all came up and sort of made their mark on them, as if to say, yes, we will have these conversations. So it was 3 huge pieces, and that was a really exciting project, and we had a great team. I think there were 9 or 10 of us down there for it. So it was a wonderful project.
Okay.
And I think powerful and effective too.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So Jen, I think we have the electronic version. We have a link to the app. Do we have that available? We didn't dry run that. So let's hope the technology works for us tonight. So Kelly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can just tell you what the address is too, and people can go on and paint on it together at the same time. And it's really fun. It's paint.team/Lambertville. And it's a piece that is just open to the community. There are probably 400 or 500 marks on there so far. And it'll take probably another 400 or 500 to fill it up. Maybe when it's done, I'm thinking about maybe making it like actually creating a 3-dimensional piece with it and putting it on the side wall of the Strand for a little while when it's done, or having it wind up somewhere in Lambertville for public view.
So Kelly, why the collaborative process? What is so important about painting together?
It brings me, I always wanted to be part of a rock band, right? So I need a team. Painting is a wonderful experience, and it can be very joyful. It can be very frustrating sometimes too, but I think being able to bring people into the process is it's fun for everybody that participates in it, and it's important. I mean, the arts are important in general, and there's all this great science to back it up. And if we can create small collaborative ways to create things together and have fun doing that, then why wouldn't you?
Right. So what is so important about the creative process? You said there's a lot of science to back it up. What do you mean by that?
Oh, I think when I first started doing these, I've been doing FingerSmears for 25 years. So 25 years ago, for an executive to tell his team, we're all going to do this finger painting thing, people would look at him like, what? We're going to do what? But there really has been so much science and study put into the powerful effects of art these days, that there's lots of science to back up this claim that we've always made of, hey, it's good for you. It'll make you a happier person. It's fun. It'll get your brain to work better. It will connect your, the two sides of your brain. It inspires in ways that other things just can't do. Although I have to say, my husband gets equally as excited by an Excel file. Like that could really, that could really make his day. So
So my husband's in technical field, but he's a very creative person too. So you can find your creativity in all different ways, I think. But the important part is to be making something, I feel.
Yes, exactly. And if you could make it together with other people, it's more fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's more fun.
Sure.
Yeah.
Jen, I think we've got a question in the Q&A. Can you help us out with that one?
Yes, Robin asked, have you ever collaborated on a mural, Kelly?
A mural meaning a painting that stays on the wall, right? And it's like not on a movable canvas. I did do one once at I attended bar at a place in San Francisco called Miss Pearl's Jam House, which was connected to the Phoenix Hotel. The Phoenix Hotel is still there. And the staff and all the customers painted on it. And then when the restaurant sort of changed hands, my brother-in-law actually went in and cut the wall out so that we could take it out. We put it on the side of our restaurant in North Idaho for a while. But no, I think they're normally done on canvases that are movable. I can't think of another instance of doing one.
Would be great.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to do a finger smear on the side of the Strand.
Yeah, maybe that might happen. I wouldn't be completely surprised by that.
Right. Okay, Jen, I think we've got a question from Jim.
Yes, we do. And actually, this is very timely. He wanted to know, how do you know when the collaborative painting is finished? And do you add any final touches?
Yes, I do. I pull it all together. That's the term I use. It's the same way I know when a painting is finished, when there's not somewhere on that painting that's kind of calling at me to move it or change it somehow. If there's something that's I don't know, I guess it's like when you look at it and it makes your eye happy or satisfied, or you just kind of feel like, oh yeah, that works.
I get a feeling you're a very intuitive painter, Jen. I mean, I think maybe because you've been painting since you were 5, and it's it's in your hands, it's in your heart, it's in your eyes. I get the feeling that you're an intuitive painter. Would you agree with that?
I guess. What do you mean by intuitive? Like, I mean, you just feel it.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, but to an extent, I think we had this conversation once. When I first moved out here, I rented a small studio from Bob Beck. He had a place up on North Union Street, and he's a beautiful painter and a nice person and a good teacher too. But I rented some space from him, and he asked me if I would teach a beginning painting class. And I thought, yeah, that would be fun. I'm sure I could do that. And then when I started studying what you would actually teach in a beginning painting class, because I never went to art school. So I didn't have a solid foundation of the basics. I didn't even know what half the basics were. So maybe at one point I was just too intuitive, and it could become very frustrating and difficult when you can't figure out how to make something come forward or move back, or you can't figure out what the problem is in your painting. And really, a lot of it boils down to the basic structure, the basics. So teaching that class, I think, really improved and changed the way I painted. So I do paint intuitively because you want to feel what you're painting and you want that to come out in your painting. but I also pay attention to the basics in the painting. Is it structurally sound? Is the balance of light and dark, you know, uneven? Is there more dark or more light? There are some things, there are some structural things in a painting that make it a really strong painting from across the room. So I think those should not be overlooked. And color is really important, I think, too. So I am intuitive, but I've studied a lot too, because I enjoy the process of the study. I enjoy learning about it. I enjoy being able to, exercise it.
Right.
Yeah.
Jen, we have a question from Patrick Fowles, our own Patrick Fowles from Phillips Mill.
Yes, Patrick wants to know, do you ever reject or cover up contributions to your collaborative works?
Oh, I don't really like the word reject, but most people get that the whole idea is to add something that adds to the overall picture, not to make that painting all about you. So yes, sometimes there is a mark that becomes part of the textural base coat. But I leave as much as I possibly can. It's pretty, you want to. That's what sort of makes them so interesting. So I pull together the empty areas, and sometimes just add a stroke to sort of complement what's already there, what someone else has done. But yeah, my hand is definitely in there.
All right, and I think we have a practical question from Mary Jane.
Yes, she wants to know if you are currently offering any classes, Kelly.
Oh, I was going to try to do a beginning painting Zoom thing, and then I just decided not to. I love teaching beginning painting. It is really a fun class to teach, and I want to do more of it, but I want to do it like face to face, especially that beginning painting class, because there's so much there, and what everybody needs is quite often different, so hopefully this spring, yes, we will do something outside where we could gather and do like a beginning plein air class. But if anybody wants to know about that, they should join my newsletter, because that's the first place that I put it out, and they usually fill up like really quickly just from the newsletter.
So in this area, we have a lot of people who've maybe had a career already and they're taking up painting, or maybe they're still working and they're taking up painting. What kind of advice do you have for them for starting? Because maybe art school is at some point not really an option or practical for people.
Yeah, sure. Same with me. Got to a point where it wasn't practical, but I still really wanted to learn. So I found painters whose work I really liked, and I would go take workshops with them. And COVID, prohibits that right now. But when COVID is under control, I highly recommend that. Some of them, those workshops can be a lot of fun. You go off for a week somewhere, you meet a bunch of other people who are all trying to figure it out. You eat dinner together, you drink wine together, you paint together. They're fun, and they're usually really good. I mean, there are I like Kwang Ho is one of my favorite painters. His work is amazing, and he gives his workshops are thorough, and he really cares. And I don't know, he's got scheduled, but he's amazing. Kevin McPherson still does them. Sherry McGraw does them. Scott Christensen does them. But around here, like I said, I took a class with Pat Martin and loved it. I took one with Tyho Danish and loved it. I took one with Bob Beck and loved it. There are a lot of people right here that you could study with. And if you want good books, there are good books out there too. Yeah, it's a really, it's a good thing to do for yourself as a, you can start a painting and you can you sort of lose yourself in it for hours, and it's a full focused meditation of sorts that I think is incredibly beneficial. So yeah, I say go, keep painting, do it, do it more often. Set up a little still life that you love and just try to, kind of paint what you see. Um, or if you want to do something a little bit more abstract, just get supplies and start pushing color around and start making marks and just see what comes out of it. Something will come out.
Something will come out of it.
Yeah.
Kelly, tell us a little bit about your girls project. Again, you've traveled to Uganda, several places for it. What is that project about?
It is called Mighty Fingers Facing Change, and it is a project that was designed to empower adolescent girls and empower and connect them. So the idea was to take one finger smear around the world. We work through existing organizations, and all the girls create a piece of art that is all about them, and that's done based on a visualization exercise. We talk about their life and their community on a very broad level, and then a tighter level, and then on a personal level, and what do they want to see change, what can they do to start creating that change. A lot of it has to do with just understanding that they have accepting that they have the ability to create change in their environment. So it's really it's a it's a it's a cool day, I think, for all of us. We've produced it 29 times in different parts of the world. We've done I think 8 schools in New Jersey. We've done them in 5 through the New Jersey Education Association, and the other 3 were through a parents group brought me in. So it's been amazing. All the organizations that we worked with, they're the people that are on the ground doing the work every single day. We kind of just bring the project to them, and we produce it with anywhere from 25 girls to, God, I think Uganda, where there were 125 girls. We also spent, almost a month in that village and helped build a school and desks and plant mango trees. And, there was a lot. So depending on where we go, if it's really far away, we'll spend a little bit more time and we'll do as much as we could do while we're there. But it can also be done in one day. Like in the schools in New Jersey, it was a one-day program, and we brought it in, and the girls all participated, and so they create this piece that's all about themselves that they keep, but then they all participate in the one finger smear that goes from place to place to place, and that's a 10-foot long painting that gets rolled up and packed in a tube and goes with us wherever we go.
So in that project, you're really putting together that importance of creativity for the individual, but you're also combining it with that collaborative aspect.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Or do you think you'll, after COVID, do you think that you'll do more of that project?
Yes, I would like to. I have not gotten it to the South American continent yet, and I have not gotten it to the Australian continent yet. So I would like to take it to those, somewhere in those 2 areas, and then maybe pull the whole thing together, finish the finger smear. I would love to do a show somewhere, like we have images and interviews and video from girls all over the world talking about what they want to see change and how they're part of that change. And I would love to see it in an exhibition of some sort at some point. So we'll see.
Good luck with that. We hope to see it.
Thanks.
You have so many things going on. We also have just a little bit of time left to talk about the Strand, which you're buying the Strand Theatre from Finkel's.
Yeah.
And you've got your zoning, and Finkel's is moving out. Tell us a little bit about that project. That seems like just renovating the theater is huge.
It is. It's probably, it is a lot. And sometimes I'm like, wow, what have I started? But I'm pretty inspired by it. So I used to come here in high school. I grew up in Hunterdon County, and I always thought Lambertville was like this amazing little village. And I walked by that building, 25 years ago and thought, wow, God, I could do something so cool. What's in there? Why is it, why does it look so quiet? And then, when we moved back to town here, and I just rediscovered Finkel's, and I went down there to buy nails, and I walked in the theater with Rachel, who owns Finkel's, and I said, oh God, I love this building. I've always loved this building. It would make the most amazing art space. And she said, oh yeah, you want to buy it? I said, yeah, I want to buy it. Yeah. And then I ran home to my husband, like, honey, we're going to buy the Strand. He was like, all right, you got my nails?
That's a big impulse purchase, Kelly.
Yeah, it was. Well, it took a couple months for us to sort of negotiate something that would work out for both of us. It's full of their stuff, and I wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to do what I wanted to do with it and get it through the city before I committed to that kind of purchase. And she's been great. She's been great. So it's been a little over a year, and it got approved unanimously by the planning board, which was great. It was difficult. It was the first time I ever tried to do something like that, and it was a big learning curve. And I did not do it without error. So, but we got it done. So they are in the process of emptying it out, and hopefully we close on it by the beginning of April, and then we can start sort of just kind of gutting what's left in there, and putting in plumbing and all that other jazz. We're working on the architectural plans right now, and that's exciting. And my focus will be the corporate teams midweek, which is what I know will sustain that kind of investment. And then I'm working with a small team of talented people with far more experience than I have, that are helping to sort of identify what will happen in there on weekends that will make it a real treasure for the community, as far as interesting programming, and what types of classes or original theater. I mean, it's not a huge space, so it's the theater will be, I think, a place to incubation theater, a place to birth ideas, a place to see some new music, or see a lecture on something, or there's all kinds of interesting possibilities, and it'll be fun to see that develop. But that'll happen with a team of people who are more experienced at that than myself. I'm working with Dan Balkin, who has great experience in sort of long-term strategic planning for theaters, and Katie Schultz is she lives in town, but she's an actress and a producer and a writer, and super talented, and they both have lots of energy, and they're working hard, and I'm super happy to have the involvement. So,
Kelly, are we going to be able to, people here, are we going to be able to go in and do some finger smears at the Strand when you're open?
Yeah, I hope so.
We want an inaugural finger smear, a community party.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that we will have a community party, and I would love to have you there, as well as the rest of the community. It'll be a beautiful space. It'll be flexible, so I can do these sort of it'll have a gallery area. It'll be nice to gather people to dance there once in a while. Although there's no kitchen and there's no bar, so it's not like a normal event kind of venue. So it's very specifically for the arts.
So Jen, I think we've got a comment on the Strand project from Robin Haydenberg.
Robin said that is an inspired project. I went to the Strand with my parents to watch old films when I was a child, and I can't wait to see it come back to life.
That's wonderful. And we did have Lisa Dominic get back to us. I'm not sure she's still with us. What did Lisa have to say?
She wanted to learn about collaborating.
Okay. So we did talk about that. And just, we've got to close here, but Kelly, really quickly, people, can we, how can we do our collaborative artwork on our own if we don't have a finger smear to go to?
Well, you could jump on the paint team, paint.team/Lambertville, and you can collaborate with friends and neighbors in real time. I mean, you can call your sister or your grandkids or whoever and say, "Hey, get on this with me right now." And then as you make marks, you can see them coming in together. So that's really kind of, you can write little messages, "Hi grandma," "Hi honey," or "Nice heart," whatever. So that is open and available, and it is that project is free to the public. Anybody can jump onto it. Um, if you want to finger smear at a corporate event, then you call me, and we'll hope COVID goes away, and we can do that. But
Or we set up our own canvas and invite our friends over when we're.
oh yeah, absolutely. There's
Yeah.
another thing that we do occasionally, which is super fun. If you just take like an 11 by 17 sheet of paper and colored pencils or markers, and after a dinner party, you can sort of somebody starts by just making a mark, and then you pass it on, and then somebody adds to it, and then you pass it on, and somebody adds to it and pass it on. I mean, those kinds of things are fun and interesting, and they're wonderful. If it's somebody's birthday, they get this this sort of wonderful, lovely scribble that all of their friends put something on, and yes, like that.
That's nice. Okay, any opportunity for it. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us on Art Talk. It's been a real pleasure. I can't keep up with you.
Thank you so much for having me, Laura. I really I enjoyed it. I was honored to be here. I think the Phillips Mill is a really important and beautiful place in this area, and I'm happy to participate in the shows there, and certainly happy to do this with you. And I look forward to when we can, do it in person again.
We do too. Thank you so much, Kelly. And
Thank
thank you all for joining us on Phillips Mill Art Talk. We appreciate your participation and your comments. And also, I wanted to let you know we're excited about our February lineup on the 7th. We're talking about the contest for this year's promotional image for Phillips Mill Art Exhibition. The painting of the mill can be from any perspective that we use it in our ads and our posters and our social media. It gets a lot of exposures for both the work and the artist, and usually it sells in the show. So we'll talk about that competition and more with well-known artist Steve Zazinski. Steve and his wonderful sense of color has been the image artist in the past, and his works are in the Smithsonian and the Library of Congress collection. So we can't wait to talk with Steve Zazinski on February 7th. And on February 21st, we have John Schmidberger, another strong colorist, but with a completely different feel to his work. John has won a Patrons Award at the Phillips Mill Art Exhibition the last 2 years running, which is a big accomplishment. We'll talk with him about his poetic realism. He owns a gallery in Frenchtown, so we're really excited to hear about his insights from both sides of the artist-gallerist relationship. So February is going to be a great month, and we hope you'll join us. So thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Jen McHugh, our producer, as always. Thank you to our behind the scenes team, David Hewitt and Dennis Riley, who've joined us in producing the program. And we look forward to seeing you all again soon. I'm Laura Womack, and this is Phillips Mill Art Talk. Good night.